Okay, let's read some more of Zack Power Poison Island. We are up to chapter 3. Zack had only been standing there thinking those dreadful thoughts for a few seconds, but it felt like hours, and it must have given Dr. Drastic's henchmen the time they needed to reload their dart guns because. Oh. A hail of darts shot through the darkness straight towards Zack. Zack knew exactly what he had to do. On his first day in spy school, Zack had learnt an important lesson. GIB. Whatever happens, a spy must always complete their mission. There's no room for sympathy and no room for fear. He'd have to rescue Leon later. Right now, Zack had to run. Dr. Drastic's henchmen were getting close. Sending 2 kids, sneered one of them. GIB must be getting desperate for spies. Blood pounded angrily in Zack's head. Kids? How dare they? He'd never moved so fast in all his life. Stop him! Yelled one of the henchmen. He's getting away! The 2 henchmen raced through the jungle after him. In the heat and panic, voices seemed to rush at Zack from all directions. Which way was forward? Which was up? Which was down? Was he going in circles? It didn't matter. He just had to get as far away from those voices as he could. Zack had no idea how far he ran, or for how long. Eventually, he noticed the voices behind him fading until finally they were gone. He'd outrun Dr. Drastic's henchmen. Hiding himself carefully behind a tree, Zack stopped at last. He had to decide what to do next. He felt in the pocket of his cargo pants for his spy pad. Yes, there it was, safe and sound. He flicked it on. He could call his parents, but that would mean telling them he'd lost Leon. He could call GIB, but then he'd have to admit he'd blown his cover. Zack imagined his mum's face as he told her Leon had fallen into one of Dr. Drastic's booby traps. He punched in the secret number for GIB. The phone at Mission Control rang. This is GIB. Prepare for security clearance. Zack held his spy pad to his fingertip while it scanned his fingertip. Hello, Zack, said a voice at Mission Control. Oh, hi, began Zack. Zack, do you read me? Came the voice on the other end of the spy pad. But Zack couldn't hear it. He tripped on a tree root, stumbled forward and let go of his spy pad. As if in slow motion, the spy pad was flying through the air. It hit a patch of sandy ground, then mysteriously began to sink. Oh no, thought Zack. Quicksand. A spy must never be without a spy pad. Zack had to get it back. He jumped into the quicksand and straight away his hands closed around the spy pad. Yes, it was safe. Right, thought Zack. Now to get out of the quicksand, it can't be so hard. He tried to lift his leg out, but the quicksand moved underneath him like liquid. It sucked him down even lower. He tried his right leg. No luck. He was sinking fast. Zack knew the best way to get out of quicksand. Stay still and wait for someone to come and pull you out. But no one except for Dr. Drastic's henchmen knew even roughly where he was. An idea popped into Zack's head. What if he let himself sink all the way through the quicksand until he reached the solid ground at the bottom? Then he could use his official GIB Trampo socks to bounce his way out. Trampo socks were like ordinary sports socks, except each heel was fitted with an extra springy miniature trampoline. Microscopic trampoline springs, triple strength heel. Zack took a deep breath and duck dived under the quicksand. It swallowed him up with a glub, glub, glub. Zack wiggled off one sneaker, then the other. Even the slightest effort made him feel dizzy. He was running out of air. But just when Zack thought he couldn't hold his breath for a second longer, he hit solid ground. With all his might, he hurled his heels in their trampo socks against the bottom. Zack shot up through the quicksand and burst out the top. He soared through the air, gasping for air as he flew. Thud! He landed heavily on solid rock. He was right near the mouth of a cave. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. Zack crawled into the gloomy cave. Rocks cut his knees, but he didn't care. He was just too tired to stand up. The cave smelt awful, like dead bat and sweaty armpit mixed together. Zack hardly noticed. A dark cave was the perfect place to hide for a while. Right now, that was all that mattered. Feeling the rocky cave walls, Zack came to a ledge sticking out. Relieved, he crawled underneath and took out his spy pad. The message light was blinking. Maybe someone at GIB knew he was in trouble and was sending backup. Message received 8:03 a.m. Thieves have raided government mint. Millions of dollars stolen. Agent Toolbelt, Dad, and I have been sent to investigate. We're sure you and Leon can handle Dr. Drastic yourself. Remember, it's your turn to walk, Espy. Message from Agent Bumsmack. That's Mum. Water dripped on Zack's head. He shivered. Everything now depended on him. Just a couple of hours ago, Zack had been wishing he could finish a mission all by himself. Now that it was really happening, Zack wasn't sure he liked it at all. Zack switched his spy pad to write message mode. He needed to send GIB a full update. He was typing away when he heard a sound. It sounded like footsteps. Zack crouched down lower under the rock ledge. Yes, it was definitely footsteps, and they were coming his way. He stayed statue still. He hardly dared to breathe. "How long's this going to take, Bruce?" said a man's voice. Zack listened closely. The voice was the same one he'd heard back in the jungle when Leon was captured. It seemed to come from further inside the cave. "As long as Dr. Drastic says, Bradley," said the second henchman. What now, thought Zack. He could make a break for it and run out of the cave, but he didn't like his chances of outrunning the henchman twice in one day. Better to stay hidden. He might even learn something. As though he'd read Zack's mind, Bradley piped up with a question. "Anyway, what's Dr. Drastic got in that lab that's so important?" he said. "You fool! It's the boss's biggest ever project, Solution X," said Bruce. "Oh yeah? How's he make that?" In his rocky hiding place, Zack went red with excitement. This knucklehead was about to give him just the clue he needed to get the mission back on track. "Seen those pigeon frogs everywhere? Well, the boss discovered poison frogs everywhere. Well, the boss discovered that if you boil their poison and add a few ingredients, you get Solution X." "Wow," said Bradley. Zack could tell that he didn't understand anything Bruce had said. "It's going to make the boss rich," said Bruce. "So where do those two little brats from GIB fit in?" "Brats?" Zack wished he could shout back something really rude. "Dr. Drastic told the world's governments he'll sell them Solution X if they pay $1 million each within 24 hours. Guess they don't want to pay. GIB must have sent the kids to find the formula before time runs out and Dr. Drastic destroys it," sniffed Bruce. Bradley sniggered. "Do they know he's going to kill that nerdy Leon kid too?" he asked. Kill Leon? Zack shivered. "Dunno, Bradley. All we have to worry about is keeping Solution X and the kid safely locked in the lab until the deadline passes," said Bruce. "I'm sitting down then," said Bradley. "Bet we'll be guarding the lab entrance for a while, and I'm starving." The lab must be somewhere on the other side of Bruce and Bradley. Zack had to get past them fast, but how? Suddenly, Zack had an idea. It was risky, but things were really desperate now. He turned his spy pad to voice scrambling mode. He took a deep breath and shouted into the microphone, "Hot pies, ice cream, ice cold drinks." The voice that came out didn't sound like Zack's voice at all. It sounded exactly like a grown man selling snacks at a footy ground. "All right," said Bradley greedily. "I could really go a pie right now." "Me too," said Bruce. "Didn't know there was snack vans on the island, though," he said thoughtfully. "Me neither. First time for everything, I guess," Bradley said. "Hot chips," called Zack. Through the voice scrambler, Bruce and Bradley stood up. They practically fell over each other to be first out of the cave. "I'm getting a pie and chips, or maybe 2 pies," said Bruce, running. "Reckon they'll have tomato sauce out here," said Bradley, his voice fading into the distance. Zack had done it. The cave was empty. Next step, Dr. Drastic's secret lab. Chapter 5. By now, Zack's eyes were used to the darkness inside the cave. He saw stalactites hanging down from the roof like daggers. Directly in front of him was a long, narrow tunnel leading further into the cave. That had to be the way to the lab. He set off along the passage. He ran, but carefully. There was a stream running along the floor of the tunnel and the rocks The rocks were slippery. He couldn't afford to fall and crack his head. Solution X and Leon would be lost for sure. Then again, Zack didn't know how long Bruce and Bradley would wander through the jungle looking for a snack van that didn't exist. Yes, they were thick, but how thick? The deeper into the cave Zack went, the narrower the tunnel became. Soon he was on all fours, only just squeezing through. It got darker and colder and scarier. If something happened to Zack down here, he knew he would never be found. Just as soon as he thought this, the rocky passage walls started to shake. Deep rumbling sounds came at him from every direction. Boom, boom, boom. Rocks pelted down all around him. The passage was caving in. It was another one of Dr. Drastic's booby traps. Zack must have accidentally triggered a tripwire. Zack tried to speed crawl forward along the tunnel, but a huge pile of rocks blocked his way. He crawled backwards along the tunnel, only to find an even bigger pile of rocks there. Zack was trapped. He felt around in his pockets. He needed something, anything, to dig with. But Zack had nothing but his spy pad, a roll of grape bubble tape with hair stuck to it, and his iPod. Wait, his iPod. His dad was always telling him he had his music up so loud it made the walls shake. Maybe I could force the rocks out of the way by triggering another rock slide using sound waves, thought Zack. There was always the risk that even more rocks would fall, but it was his only chance. Zack hooked his iPod to his spy pad. His spy pad had awesome built-in speakers. They were unbelievably powerful for something so small. Zack checked the music on his iPod. To trigger the rock slide, he'd need something really, really loud. He found the axe grinder's latest signal. Torture for your ears. Perfect. Zack set the volume to 10. He blocked his ears and hit play. If you've got ears, well, listen to this, yelled Axe Grinder's singer. The force of the sound waves blew Zack across the tunnel. There was no word for it other than awesome. But best of all, the rocks blocking Zack's way forward had been blown apart. All that stood in his way now was a big pile of dust. Zack got back down on all fours. He crawled deeper into the tunnel. Axe Grinder's rock concert had been very cool, but there was no time to waste. It was already 2:43 p.m. He must be getting close to Dr. Drastic's lab by now, and sure enough, the tunnel started to widen. The stream on the floor of the tunnel deepened. Soon Zack was standing knee-deep in water. He rounded a final bend. The tunnel ended in an enormous rocky chamber. Zack found himself on the edge of a lake that took up most of the area. He took a look around. If this is the end of the tunnel, thought Zack, then the entrance to the secret lab must be somewhere in this rocky room. But where? All Zack could see were smooth, hard walls. No secret passages, no doors with codes to crack. Absolutely nothing. Then, in the darkness, Zack almost tripped over something stuck into the shore of the lake. He got down low to have a good look. No fishing. It was a sign that said no fishing. Besides the writing was a picture of a fisherman looking alarmed as a fish with huge and bloody fangs chewed his right arm off. It was a piranha. Zack had seen a dead one once on a mission in the Amazon. A piranha could chew all your skin off in 10 minutes flat. But what would a fish that only lives in the Amazon be doing on Poison Island? Unless, suddenly, Zack was certain. The lab entrance must be right at the bottom of the lake, protected by Dr. Drastic's final booby trap. A piranha-infested lake.